Good evening. I will reconvene into open session this meeting of the Arlington Independent School Board District. March 13th, 2025, beginning at 7:22 p.m. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I know it's hard to see me back here with these beautiful, amazing junior high students. It's okay, Mustafa. People are used to not being able to see me. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our board meetings are open to the public, and we welcome everyone. Thank you for being here and participating in public education. While our meetings are open to the public, this meeting, we do have business to conduct. Disruptions will not be permitted. Anyone who disrupts the meeting or speaks when others may be speaking may be asked to leave or be escorted out by security attending the meeting. We welcome civic input, but insist that we may remain respectful and civil. Thank you for your cooperation. Please join now our student of the month, Amos Elementary, Logan Johnson, in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Logan, are you with us?
Yes.
Mustafa, you're taller. Can you see him for me? You got him? Okay.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. Please join us for a moment of silence.
All right, thank you. I'm just interrupting briefly to say that as we have done at a couple meetings so far, part of my goal as president is to help trustees prepare for this position when they one day get there and grow in their leadership. And as part of that, I have instituted a program that I call Gavel Sharing. And tonight, Secretary Richardson will be chairing the meeting.
Thank you, President Chapa. To learn a little bit more about our student leading us tonight in the pledge, Logan Johnson, we're going to turn it over tonight to our Executive Director of Engagement, Equity, and Access, Aaron Perales.
Well, thank you, Secretary Richardson, President Chapa, Dr. Smith, members of the board. Had an opportunity to chit-chat a little bit with Logan and found some fun facts about him and what he's doing on campus. I learned that Logan is a sixth grader at Amos Elementary. His favorite subject is language arts, and we've got a connection on that because that's what I used to teach, and that's important to remember for a little bit later. His favorite food is pizza. Particularly cheese pizza. He enjoys hanging out with his friends at school and outside of school, and he is a true leader on campus. He's involved in many, many activities. He's a member of the National Elementary Honor Society, Student Council, Hope Squad, and competes for the campus in the UIL A+ program. He's supported by his mom and dad, Nicole and Stephen Johnson, and mom Nicole is here. And fun fact about mom, she is a fifth grade teacher at Amos, and she teaches math and science. So they've got 3 of the 4 core areas covered at home. And so, Logan, you did a fantastic job leading us today. We know you're going to continue to be a fantastic leader on campus and as you move forward into junior high. Thank you for sharing your leadership today.
The first part of our agenda tonight, after recognitions for this evening, we will take a short recess and head to the lobby to be able to take pictures and to celebrate with everyone. Right now, we have our very first performance of the night. It is from Carter Junior High Fine Arts. Mr. Perales, would you tell us a little bit about who's performing tonight?
Yes, thank you, Secretary Richardson. So it's a joy for me to introduce a combined fine arts ensemble from Carter Junior High School. They are led by fantastic directors and assistant directors. We are joined by band director Chad Strother and assistant director Allie Solomon, orchestra director Ron Kynard and assistant director Tonda Sykes, and choir director Kathleen Reimer. This combined ensemble of 8th grade students will be sharing the Carter Junior High alma mater. Before they begin, the Fine Arts team has prepared some words for me to share with you this evening. It's an honor to share the Carter Junior High Band, Choir, and Orchestra, programs that have not only shaped young musicians for the past 67 years, but have also served as a cornerstone of our school and community. Through concerts, performances, and outreach, Carter's Fine Arts have brought music to our families, connected students across backgrounds, and fostered a love for the arts that extends beyond the classroom. Our musicians have proudly represented Carter at festivals and events, grown into dedicated performers, and built a culture of resilience and camaraderie. As we prepare to close this chapter and transition to Joey Rodriguez Junior High, we are excited to carry on the spirit of Carter, honoring its legacy while breathing life into a new era of music and artistry. The passion, dedication, and pride that have defined our students and staff will continue to thrive in our new home, ensuring that the heart of Carter lives on, not just in the classroom, but in every note played, every song sung, and every life touched by the power of music. Ladies and gentlemen, the combined Carter Junior High Ensemble.
Thank you, Carter Junior High, for coming and joining us and being a part of tonight's meeting. Our next item is Student of the Month. To introduce them, Mr. Prowlis, will you share again?
Yes, thank you, Secretary Richardson. We're excited to join the Sam Houston Learning Community and to celebrate our Arlington ISD Student of the Month. And so from Sam Houston administration team, we have Jason Collado, who I'd like to introduce to the podium. Now, Principal Villarreal is at another student event where students are being recognized, but fortunately, Jason Collado is our Student of the Month's assistant principal, and we're going to learn more about our Student of the Month.
Right. Good evening, board members, Dr. Smith. I'd like to start by informing you that Mr. Villarreal intended to be here today to represent Harmony. However, due to a prior engagement at the Arlington Northwest Rotary Club Senior Banquet, he was unable to attend. As Harmony's assistant principal, I am honored to be here to highlight Harmony as Sam Houston's Student of the Month. This is my first year back in Arlington ISD, and I haven't had a chance to build a relationship with Harmony just yet. However, after spending some time with him recently and reading the feedback from his teachers and counselors, I can confidently say that Harmony is an impressive young man. And I understand exactly why he was nominated Student of the Month. Today, I will share two write-ups, one from Harmony's counselor and the other from his coach, both of which will highlight his hard work, dedication, and success on our campus. Please allow me to read these. I'll read them now. The first tribute comes from Coach Eric Ward. Harmony Onteri embodies the true spirit of resilience and dedication, a promising football player whose career was cut short by a devastating hip injury. He refused to let adversity define him. Instead, he channeled his passion for the game into coaching, becoming a guiding force for his teammates for the remainder of his high school career. With an unmatched work ethic and a deep understanding of the game, Harmony has proven to be not only an exceptional coach, but also an outstanding student. His leadership, knowledge, and unwavering commitment have left an undeniable mark around those around him. Beyond football, Harmony is a remarkable human being, kind, determined, and inspiration to all who have the privilege of knowing him. His journey is a testament to perseverance, proving that true greatness is not just about playing the game, but also about uplifting others along the way. He is not perfect, but he is excellent. The second tribute to Harmony comes from his counselor, Ms. Maya Gaines. It is an honor to recommend Mr. Harmony Ontieri for the AISD March 2025 Student of the Month. Harmony's journey through high school is a testament to his academic excellence, resilience, and diligence. Harmony comes from a large family, which has instilled a sense of responsibility in him from an early age. Despite the challenges of balancing his family obligations, like taking care of his younger siblings, with his academic pursuits, Harmony has consistently demonstrated an exceptional work ethic and a desire to excel. He is ranked in the top 10% of his class and has emerged as a leader on the football, basketball, and track teams, in which he has been part of since his freshman year. Harmony is dependable, and his coaches often count on him to help motivate and encourage his fellow teammates. Harmony's commitment to his community is equally impressive. He works part-time at Traders Village, where he has honed his skills in time management and customer service. This experience has taught him to value the patience and empathy, qualities that have matured him as an individual. His coworkers often commend his ability to manage difficult situations with grace and composure. A display of Harmony's earnest efforts was recently highlighted by Fox 4 News this past holiday season while volunteering at the Holiday Store in Mission of Arlington. Harmony's post-secondary goal is to become a registered nurse, inspired by one of his aunts. I have no doubt that Harmony Ontieri will achieve this goal and so much more. His potential is boundless, and he is truly deserving of being honored as the March 2025 AISD Student of the Month. So at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Harmony Ontieri.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Smith. I want to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to those who recognize my leadership potential and gave me the opportunity to speak today. A special thank you to Mr. Villarreal, Mr. Collado, Coach Ward, Coach Malik Boyden, Ms. Gaines, and the entire Sam Houston family. I would also like to thank my parents and grandparents for supporting me and providing opportunities I need to ensure I had a successful education experience. I'm originally from Kenya, where education is not always so free. So when I came to the United States, having access to free education was truly a blessing for my family. I understand the importance of receiving a good education, and I made sure to take full advantage of this incredible opportunity. I am incredibly excited to receive this honor of Student of the Month, and I'm committed to continue my growth in education, achieve my goals, and uplifting my siblings to follow my footsteps. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on being Student of the Month and sharing a little bit about why education is important to you, where you come from, but also knowing where your place is here now and the great things that are to come to you. If you will give us just a moment, Dr. Smith and President Chapa are going to come down and join you. They have a little gift they would like to give you and present to you, and take your picture if you're willing.
One of the best things about being a superintendent is seeing our students in action and our students thriving. And I got to tell you, I was moved by what I heard about you tonight. I was thinking about your name, and I can tell you this, just based on what I heard and what I see already, we need a little more harmony in the world right now. And I am excited and honored to present you with this recognition as our High School Student of the Month. To be described as resilient, hardworking, dedicated, Not perfect, but hardworking and focused. That's what we all want to be on a regular basis. And so you inspire me by the way people are describing you. We're honored to have you as our Student of the Month this month. And I'd love to have you come work in Arlington ISD when you're that RN someday. Congratulations, sir.
Harmony, on behalf of the board, we give all of our Students of the Month this, and we also give anyone who's done significant contribution to the district this as well. This is the same pin that all the trustees wear. Dr. Smith wears as well, and we'd like to give you one tonight. And it's a special privilege for me to give it to you tonight because I'm also a Sam Houston graduate, and Mr. Criado shared tonight what so many of our students at Sam Houston struggle with but also overcome, and you exemplify that, and we're very proud of you.
We're going to take some pictures real quick. And family, we're going to ask you to come up in just a second, okay?
I had you placed. All right, here we go. Okay.
Family, can we have you all come join us real quick up here?
Okay, here we go, guys. One. Over here. 1, 2. Okay.
Thank you. Good job, y'all. Thank y'all.
We will take a recess in a few moments so that way you can take more family pictures and celebrate with the board. Our next item is our Community Partner Award, and here to present it once again, Mr. Aaron Perales.
All right, at this time, I'd like to invite Angie Meister to the podium. And while she's making her way, I noticed that we're joined by Logan's dad, so I want to acknowledge that dad is here supporting his son with mom, and so thank you for being here today. Mr. Johnson. Ms. Meister, thank you for being here as well. And so it truly is an honor to be able to celebrate a community again that supports us every day, supports our students, teachers, and families. And so thank you for being here today. We're honored to share this award with you. I'd like to share a little bit of information about the United Performing Arts Guild. For the past 4 years, the United Performing Arts Guild has been bringing the magic of the Nutcracker to life for elementary school children in our community. Over 3 days, they share 6 performances inviting 4 to 5 schools per show and offering admittance for free of charge. This generous initiative allows hundreds of young students to experience the wonder of live theater, many of them attending a performance for the very first time. It's a beautiful way to make the arts accessible to all, inspire the next generation of artists and dreamers. This past holiday season, nearly 2,000 Arlington ISD elementary students attended the show. Today, we honor UPAG's dedication, creativity, and commitment to providing this transformative experience to local children. Their selfless work goes beyond the stage, creating lasting memories and opportunities for thousands of our youth to engage with the arts. We are thankful to celebrate the United Performing Arts Guild for their outstanding contribution to our community and to the lives of our young theater goers. You truly inspire the actors, the playwrights, the directors of tomorrow. So thank you very much.
Good evening. I just want to say thank you. We are truly honored to be recognized in the community with the Arlington ISD. 4 years ago, when we decided to change Arlington and bring back the Nutcracker, we're like, we want every child to be able to be a part of the Nutcracker, whether they've danced before or they're excellent dancers. Then to be put on the stage where you can have performers with no experience to professionals. And it has really made a huge difference in the community. Between our parent volunteers, our community sponsors, we've allowed people to be on the stage that can't afford dance. So it has inspired them to make change in themselves, and we hope we can mentor them and touch their lives through the arts. And thank you for being a partner with us and allowing your children to come watch us every year, the last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. If you don't mind, we're going to take a moment again, and Dr. Smith and President Chapa will join you to present your Partner Representative Pin and Award. Ms. Jody, can you join her as well, because we know you're a part of that process. For those who don't know, one of the things that the Nutcracker performances do is they do these for our students, but they also do sensory-friendly performances. And that's so important because we do have many students and people in our community that aren't able to attend those typical type of plays and productions. So we're so thankful that you recognize that and see that need in our community.
I want to thank you. Maybe if this is on, I want to thank you all for what you do for kids. One of the things that intrigued me about coming to Arlington ISD was the strategic plan, and the title of it was Powered by Possibilities. But we know in order to create the possibilities for kids in our system that we want to have, we need great community partners. What you do exemplifies what we need, want, and hope for the future for our kids is that we have people wrap their arms around them and create experiences that they'll never forget. So thank you for what you're doing. I think you said over 2,000 students. That's unbelievable. So thank you for what you do for Arlington ISD and most importantly for the students that we serve. We appreciate you.
Angie and Jody, we've got pins for you as well. Awesome. And just the Nutcracker show that you put on, the pictures I don't think do it justice. And you know, when you started this 4 years ago, it was a great partnership between us at our what was then a new CVPA, and for y'all to bring back the Arlington Nutcracker Ballet. You've served kids for free since year one and done many free shows. For our fourth graders, it's a fine arts field trip. And so you did 2,000 this year, I think last year, and the year before that were maybe like 1,400 a year. So it's a great partnership. And I know that y'all are not just with the Nutcracker Ballet through the Performing Arts Guild, but you're also really involved with the Rotary Club. I think y'all are the folks who train the dancers for Dancing with the Stars for Rotary. And y'all also provide free classes for our special advocate community, our special needs students in the community as well. So thank you all for so much you do in the community to promote the performing arts and to do it in a way that serves our students who otherwise couldn't afford it. So thank you.
All right, sir, quit moving. All right, 1, 2. You got Mr. Larry again. There you go. 1, 2. Got it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you again for being here. We are going to take a brief recess to celebrate those that have been awarded tonight. Trustees, let's aim to be back here in 10 minutes. The time is now 7:46 p.m., and we'll see you back in just a moment. We are in recess. The time is now 7:56, and we are back from recess. The next portion of our meeting is the open forum for agenda items. As stated in our posted agenda, members of the public who desire to address the board regarding an item on this agenda are required to register at www.aisd.net/board meeting speaker request. No later than 3 p.m. on the day of the board meeting. Ms. Krosno, do we have any requesters registered to address the board regarding agenda items tonight?
Secretary Richardson, we do not.
Moving on to reports then. Our very first report tonight comes from one of our citizen oversight committees, our Financial Futures Committee. Dr. Smith?
Thank you, Secretary Richardson, Board. We're glad to have Ms. Darla Moss as our Chief Financial Officer. As you know, Darla's been doing great work here for a few years now, and Darla helps as our liaison with the Financial Futures Committee. So Darla's going to introduce our guest to do the presentation tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Smith. Secretary Richardson, President Chapa, and trustees. I've worked, as Dr. Smith said, with the Financial Futures Committee as one of the district's liaisons for the past several months with this committee. And I just want to take a moment to just sincerely thank them, the members, for their dedication, their time, and their hard work throughout this process. They were all committed to engaging in thoughtful discussions. They analyzed some very complex financial information, and it was truly invaluable work that they did. I also want to thank the members of the board community engagement team members for their input and engagement in this process, Trustee Haynes, Trustee Mike, and Trustee Richardson. And I want to share just some of the topics that we discussed throughout this time frame. We did an orientation for all new committee members. We talked about the 2019 bond, legislative update, marketing plans, budget and finance, property values, tax rates, enrollment, and compensations. The meetings included participatory activities and work sessions, and district senior leadership attended different meetings and came and presented information to the committee as well. In addition, I met monthly with Mr. Blake Davidson and Mr. Kelly Kernut, the committee vice chair and chair for planning purposes. And tonight, we have the committee chair, Mr. Blake Davidson, here. He's going to go over a brief presentation with you.
All right, trustees, Dr. Smith, glad to be here. I'm Blake. I got to chair the committee this year. It was an awesome group of people. I think we did do a lot of work, and these are the results, so let's get going. So this is the charge. I've read this a bunch. I get to read it one last time. Our goal was to provide findings and recommendations from community stakeholders to the Board of Trustees relating to budgets and long-range financial planning to support the district's strategic plan. And there's a little asterisk down at the bottom, and this asterisk was added after I agreed to chair, so I have forgiven Darla for that. But she really wanted us to focus, and a big thing that Kelly and I talked to her about is we really wanted this committee to be valuable, both to you and to the committee members that showed up every month. And we recognized where the district is, where districts across Texas are, how funding is, and so the specific charge this year was to look for areas for budget reduction recommendations. Where this is my third year on it, we've done some reduction, but also we want you to add and do more. But this year, all of our recommendations are focused on the budget reduction. And so we use this a lot as a group of passionate people that cared about education, conversations. We just use this to guide our conversations, and sometimes we had to check ourselves and recognize we got 2 hours once a month, 7 times to get where we needed to go. And so we really tried to say, okay, is what we're talking about focused on this and also tied to budget recommendation cuts. And so I'm a theme person, and so most of our conversations and most of what you're going to see tonight are really tied to these two things. And honestly, efficiency is probably just another way to say accountability. And that is a lot of what we talked about. And when we were looking at the district, better understanding spending. We want to be advocates for the district, obviously, and funding and all of that, but also recognizing the reality of how much money the district has and responsible spending, because we want it to be around. So these were the 3 areas that we focused on, and I'll go into detail of each of these 3 areas. And so we'll get right into it with facilities. We talked a lot about this. One of our committee members did a good amount of work and partnered with somebody with the district, but to understand the capacity across all campuses, the capacity at looking at the elementary, junior high, high school level, both planned and functional capacity versus the actual capacity that they have. And some of the numbers made our eyes pretty big. And we are starting to understand that maybe facilities are not fully utilized, and that Arlington is maybe built for a district that we're not that size anymore. And also understanding that we're not growing, and we're probably not going to grow, just like no one is across the state of Texas in the country. And so our first recommendation is, this is the verbiage I kind of came up with, everyone was fine it, but just a campus consolidation study, and looking at, do we need all the schools that we have, to put it bluntly. The committee was very adamant, hopefully I do it justice, of when we looked at it and you just kind of look at how many kids are in the campus versus how many can hold it. I can't think of the word right now. Enrollment. The concern, and they wanted to make sure that the district doesn't just look at, for example, we're looking at the bottom 4 schools, and we're just saying, okay, those 4 schools, we're going to consolidate. They really cared, and they really want the district to look at all the factors that go into why is the enrollment in this school low? Why is it not at its capacity? What does it mean to the neighborhood around it? And so there was just a lot of conversation around, yes, we are recommending that potentially downsizing the number of schools we have is in the future, but we want to make sure there's a lot of thought and a lot of care that's put into that decision. So I'll just go through all these and then I'll let y'all ask questions. So that's the facilities one. We talked about a lot of things too that aren't in this, just because after kind of talking through it, the district's already doing it about efficiency and utilities and that kind of thing. So I guess also a recommendation is continuing to do those things. I just called this one budgeting spending. It was kind of a catch-all. We talked, Mrs. Moss obviously told us a lot about zero-based budgeting and how that's being deployed in some parts of the district, and that was something that the committee looking at, we understand is being done across the district, but not necessarily on the campus level now, and we think that that should probably expand to the campus level. And that just going back to that idea of accountability, that it doesn't always feel fun, but the reality is, the increased accountability is necessary and to account for spending at all the levels. The second thing we talked about some was reevaluating vendors. So cost reduction, potential elimination, but just I know the district's doing it, so maybe this is a recommendation to continue doing, but just being really diligent about where are we spending our money, what are we getting value out of, and understanding are there ways to downsize some of that. And then the third thing, we talked about special programs, and we talked a lot after y'all's, I know you talked about the IB program and then ended up not making that move, but we understood why that decision was made, and we think those conversations, as not fun as they are, need to happen. And so looking at programs, are there ways to consolidate, to reduce the financial burden to the district without taking anything away from students, because ultimately that's what we all cared about, right, with student outcomes. But we also know that there probably are some programs that are not being participated in for whatever reason, and we want those to be analyzed. So that was budgeting spending. And then the last one, I'm sorry, I forgot the exact number and you told me, but I know it's 80+% of the budget is spent on headcount. So we had to talk about that when we talk about reducing budget. So the two areas that we talked a lot about is, are there areas for efficiency with the staff that we already have? So we know one measure that's being taken is the reduction in overtime for some. Are there other areas like that? And then there was some committee members that just were talking about are teachers that we currently have in our district being fully utilized for the things that they've been hired for? And can we go and look at schools and the people that we have, can we do more with the people that we have without putting undue burden on teachers as well? Because we know a lot of teachers, most teachers are already spread too thin as it is. And then the second one was the elimination of ongoing vacancies. We just continue to see this number that they've been vacant for a long time. And if they're not going to be filled, are they something that needs to continue to be put into the budget? So those were our three areas. I'll get into my last slide, and then I'll hand it over. I wanted to do this slide to try to, rather than just list off a bunch of stuff, hopefully capture kind of the intent and the conversation in the heart of the committee and what we talked about. So I'll just read it. Throughout the year, the committee gained a deep understanding of the challenges facing Arlington ISD and pretty much every district in the state of Texas. And we understood and it became clear difficult decisions are going to have to be made. While we recognize that staffing is the largest part of our budget, we also believe that our people are the most critical factor in student achievement. So for that reason, we recommend to exhaust all other options before considering more extreme staffing measures other districts have taken. So the short is, people are the most important part to our student outcomes. Obviously, facilities matter. Obviously, everything we've talked about, it's not that it's not important, but if we really had to distill around, like, what do we want you to prioritize? And it's the employees of this district. So that is what I have. And that's it.
Do we have any questions? Trustee Haynes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Davidson.
Yeah.
Thank you for chairing the committee. As Ms. Moss mentioned, a few of us had the privilege of attending those meetings, and I want to first really thank Ms. Moss and her team for reimagining the format and what these committee meetings look like. Trustee Richardson and I, after every meeting, left there going, wow, that was fun. That was engaging. We learned something, and the committee seemed to be actively participating and really talking about issues that I don't feel were being discussed in previous years' committees. So I appreciate that very much. I really, really did enjoy the committee this year. And I think you had a great team of committee members, so thank you to all of them if they're watching. I think that you guys were very productive and did a really exceptional job. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Vice President McMurrow.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. I echo what Trustee Haynes said, and in addition to that, I know that for anyone watching, the Financial Futures Committee is made up of all kinds of stakeholders. So you have parents, you have local business owners, you have prospective parents who, like Mr. Davidson, has littles at home, and they will one day be in the system as AISD students. You have teachers that work for the school district. It's a very diverse committee made up of people who care about AISD, but see it through all facets. And I'm sure at some points there were disagreements. I'm sure at some points there were perspectives brought up in the dialogue that others weren't aware of. So I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for the hours of thoughtful dialogue and collaboration, even though I'm sure at some points it was uncomfortable because of the situations that Arlington ISD and all ISDs in Texas are under right now, given state action or inaction. And I love that you said that there was a lot of deep learning, because that's what it's going to take for us to make these thoughtful decisions. We need the community to be informed. And that really starts with you guys as a Financial Futures Committee, because you represent the community, and as trustees, we need your voice to guide these decisions that we make, just the 7 of us in our governance role. I really appreciate the recommendations made this year, because they focus on our district priorities and efficiency, not what's easy. And I hope that you guys, even though you don't see all 7 of us in the committee meetings, I hope that you guys just feel the appreciation and the way that we lean on you to keep us aware of where your committee stands on a lot of those recommendations. I just appreciate y'all, and I appreciate the trustees that are on the Community Engagement Committee to kind of help us all stay connected. And I appreciate you being co-chair previously and the chair this past year. Thank you, Mr. Davidson.
Trustee Wilbanks.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. I think Sarah's right. This, as a citizen, I really respected this district for having the foresight to bring the community together to provide critical input on such an important part of our job as a board in adopting the priorities for our budget and looking at the long range financial priorities, budgetary priorities for the district. Now as a trustee, it helps us because we are supposed to represent the vision and values of all of our stakeholders, which as Ms. McMurrow pointed out, you guys are a great cross-section of all the stakeholders in Arlington ISD, even our future parents, speaking of yourself. So And thank you for your recommendations. I think, it's rare that a committee gets to dive in and tackle the really tough problems, and you guys have. So I really appreciate that. But we could go back, one of them, on speaking of the right sizing of the district, on your slide, campus consolidation study. So when you guys were looking at this data, and did you kind of look back and reflect and provide input on the stakeholders of the community, what they thought of our strategy that we've done to date in this area? Speaking specifically of the new Berry and the new Thornton, where we took 2 antiquated school buildings and consolidated into one. What were the thoughts from the committees on that strategy, and did you guys look for opportunities for that same kind of thing going forward?
I'll be honest, no, we didn't really discuss kind of previous measures that have been taken, no.
Okay. You guys primarily looked at the functional capacity and the measures Mr. Horn's team provided?
We did, yes.
Okay. And what was the general consensus on, were there greater needs that you thought in the elementary or versus, say, the high school level?
Yeah, I should have those numbers exactly down.
I don't need to know specific campuses.
Yeah,
generally.
The elementary numbers, I think, were the ones that were the numbers that surprised us the most. Yes, it was mainly some of the elementary schools, and even just elementary as a whole on the design capacity versus what they actually, or functional capacity versus actual capacity, was mainly elementary schools, and then a little junior high, not as much in the high schools, no.
Well, thanks for doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like, Ms. Moss, you guys did a great job of diving in and really giving the team agency in the process.
Yeah,
and providing real valuable recommendations to us. And we are grateful for it. So thank you, Mr. Davidson, for your help.
Yeah.
You and your whole team.
Yeah, they were awesome.
Mr. Davidson, thank you. Trustees, I wanted to add a couple of comments here. Oh, I see Mr. Mike wanted to go. Do you want to go first? Well, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here. So, okay, a couple of things that I wanted to note. First, I appreciate the recommendations, and specifically I'll hit the budgeting piece first. One of the things that impressed me most about Arlington when I got here is Ms. Moss' team and others had been working on zero-based budgeting for a while. And so I appreciate the efforts to continue to expand that. I know it had been a priority of some of our previous administrators and Ms. Moss as well, but it is something I'm passionate about too. The formation of a new strategic plan will allow us to align budgeting practices with that this next year too. And so your recommendation comes at a really good time for us to be able to say, after we adopt that strategic plan, our ask can be for all departments in our system to develop budgets next year that align directly with that strategic plan so we can prioritize by department what's going to help us take us to the next level. So trustees, thank you for allowing us to engage in the strategic planning process right now. This is going to help drive budget decisions for the future, and specifically the building of zero-based budgets for the future. So thank you for that. The second thing I wanted to bring up is one of the other things I was truly impressed about with Arlington ISD coming here was the strategy that Trustee Will Banks mentioned before. I think if trustees are okay with it, what I would like to do is with these recommendations, we would start to talk about a next phase of bond elections and when that might need to be for our school district. Because I think a thoughtful investment in aging facilities along with the discussion of potential consolidation makes sense for our community. We are, while we are a decrease in enrollment school district right now, we also know that based on our demographer numbers that we're going to level out here in the next few years. And we do need to continue to think long-term about the sustainability of some of our facilities. So it's not an either or, closing facilities or adding new ones, but it can be a both and adding new ones strategically, taking some offline that are in need of that are aged in need of repair. So with trustees' permission, one of the next things that we will do is begin studying facilities, really taking a look at our facility condition, and also begin discussions about what future bond elections may look like so we can thoughtfully do this for our community for the future. And then final thing that I think is important to note is that I believe wholeheartedly that we do have to protect our resources for the classroom. We do know that what matters between the teacher and the student in the classroom is extremely important. So I appreciate that recommendation and that continued focus on that. We will always work to make sure that our practices and our efforts align with that moving forward, but with thoughtful budgeting to hit our strategic plan, with thoughtful study to move forward, I think we can do some of these things. The last thing I might ask our trustees to consider is your charge. This is a committee that is under your charge. Your charge that was read by Darla at the beginning of this is important. I think what I would also ask is that maybe we reactivate this committee and take a look at these recommendations that they have and continue studying them in more depth. While I don't want to say this, I will. Our legislature did not fund us last legislative session, and they still have not done that this legislative session. So the decisions that we're going to have to make as a committee or as a board and an administrative team moving forward are going to get harder and harder and harder. And if we don't continue to engage our community and thoughtful leaders that are willing to spend some time on these topics, then we're going to be faced with some really tough decisions without their input, and I wouldn't want that. So I'd love to see this committee evolve a little bit and continue to take next steps based on these recommendations and not say these are final, but let's dive deeper into each one of these in a way over the next year that gives us thoughtful community input on what this committee has said.
Trustee Mike?
We're good. Mr. Davidson, thank you for the presentation. I would be remiss to echo some of the comments of my colleagues and superintendent with regards to how good of a presentation this was. Being able to sit in the committee, when I look at the final thoughts that you've put up here, I think it just echoes the entire process that went on this year about the difficult decisions that not only the school district faces, but the challenges and difficult decisions on some of the workshops that we're allowed to participate in. For instance, when it came down to the budget, there was a workshop that was done with the budget figuring out what do we cut. And some people could just go across the board and cut stuff, but when you really think about it, that impact to the teachers, to the students, we're always at the forefront of the minds of every single participant in there. So that's something that is very enlightening to see, especially when we work with our community members. With regards to these final thoughts, what I really like seeing is the fact that we recognize what some of our large budgets are, but at the forefront of that, it's always to ensure that we take care of our people. So having said all of that, as an individual who's been on this committee multiple times, if there are people who are watching or who have never participated in this committee or understanding some of the hard challenges that we face, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what would you say to them to encourage them to help participate in some of the things that you and your fellow committee members are participating in?
Yeah, I think, it's really easy to complain, right? And it's really easy to just point out what's wrong, and that when hard decisions are made, they can just be framed as bad decisions or thoughtless decisions. This is my third year on the committee, and I still don't think I could pass a school finance test, even though I try to learn. It's complicated and it's hard. And I think sitting through this committee, you learn that. Obviously with Darla and with the trustees are there and everybody from the district that we get to meet, you can see the intention and the effort and how much everybody cares about the students and to drive student outcomes. And so I think, I would definitely encourage people that really do want to make a difference, right, and not just easily complain. To do that. And then also, I think a big part of this committee, and we talked about it a lot, is not just this, but being a voice in the community. I think maybe Ms. McMurrow, you mentioned that, or one of y'all mentioned that, is now that we know this, we need to be advocates within our spheres of influence, right? Because, again, we keep saying it, but like, hard decisions are coming, and some not popular ones are coming, and it's on us that have been more informed, assuming they're aligned with our recommendations, and we agree to go be a voice and not just let people react as they may. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Mr. Davidson, thank you. I had the pleasure of serving on this committee with you, and Mrs. Moss, agree. The workshops were amazing. You made us really think, and to see community members where you're seeing parents, grandparents, staff members, business owners sit there and realize you think you understand school finance, you don't. It is unlike any other beast you have ever seen, and it is not what meets the eye. Thank you for teaching us this. One of the things I want to remind people is the committee that you have chaired and that people have sat on, it's 18 people. It's 2-year terms, they're staggered, but April, May is when those positions open up, and people can go to our district website, AISD.net, and if you put in Financial Futures Committee, you pull up that information. It's a committee, though, that I feel like that you don't go to complain about. It's a committee where you go to work, and you come with ideas and solutions and problems. But this is not a committee where you just complain about everything that's wrong in the district and bring it to us. Instead, what you brought tonight along with your team were solutions and a direction, and I appreciate that. So I just want to encourage community members that if you want to be involved in school finance, you want to learn like you have after 3 years, there's a way to do that. But we need them to sign up and participate. So thank you so much, Mr. Davidson. I hope you enjoy your new baby at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all.
You. Reports item B is from our Governance Committee report. We're going to hear from our Governance Chair, Vice President Sarah McMurrow.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. A couple quick governance, I'm going to do 2 forms of update. First, talk about the last governance meeting, and then I have a legislative update. So our governance committee recently met, and as many of you, as trustees know, and our community may not know, we are going through a comprehensive policy update right now. A consultant from TASB, the Texas Association of School Boards, is working with Arlington ISD. They've recently met with our senior staff, and they are going to come forth with some policy recommendations for us to consider. We are also, as a governance team, engaged in researching different grading policies from surrounding school districts, just to learn, just to kind of see our system and take a look at what other similar school districts and local school districts are doing in the area of grading. So some policy recommendations are going to come forth pretty soon on board meeting agendas. Earlier this week, we had I can't believe this was this week, but it was. We had a trustee talks on Monday. Our governance committee facilitated a wonderful trustee talks with a great turnout around legislative matters. And so I want to say thank you to Trustee Haynes, Trustee Fowler, and our superintendent, Dr. Smith. I commend you, Dr. Smith, because even though it's trustee talks, you were very engaged, and you answered a lot of the operational questions that wouldn't have been appropriate for trustees to answer, so we appreciate it. We had an awesome turnout at our Professional Development Center with our Arlington Council of PTAs. Our SLAB students were there, and many community members, parents, teachers, just asking questions about where are we right now in the 89th legislative session, and how can I help if I care about the future of the school district. So what we did was we gave them not just our legislative priorities that we adopted formally, but we gave them an update on key bills and the stage that those bills are in right now. So I'm really excited to report that now everyone who attended is going back to their own spheres of influence, their families, their own pockets of a social network, and we are now tripling, probably quadrupling our advocacy team because those folks left there fired up and ready to contact legislators, and I just really appreciate everyone who came out. Another legislative update, as you guys know or may not know, for those of y'all that are watching, House Bill 3, this is the House bill that is in regards to the first ever education savings account system. That is a key priority of the governor. That's that House bill, and you might call an education savings account a voucher, otherwise known as a voucher. Right now, that bill is in the Committee on Education. So that means that there are 15 people that serve in the House of Representatives, but they're just on that Committee on Education. The bill has to pass through committee and be voted on by the majority of committee members in order to even reach the House floor. So right now, if you would like to voice your opinion on House Bill 3, my recommendation would be to focus on those 15. Not necessarily all the House members, but right now there's 15 people that will determine whether that bill goes to the House floor or whether it dies in committee. So that's the stage of that bill right now. I thought it was very interesting. 2 days ago, 2/3 days ago, I drove down to testify Arlington ISD's formal opposition of House Bill 3, given the fact that ESAs would inevitably take away funding for public schools. And I do want to share that 396 Texans were registered to speak in person, but 308, the large majority of that number, registered to speak in opposition of House Bill 3. So I know there's a lot of information out there, and some of it may say, most Texans support vouchers. Well, if you take a look at what happened earlier this week at the Capitol, there was not a majority that spoke out in support of House Bill 3. So I'm just reiterating the facts from the committee hearing. Our next, trustees have already gone down with Dr. Smith. 3 of us went down with Dr. Smith to visit with our legislators in person. And our next Capitol visit is going to be March 27th. Myself, Trustee Mike, President Chapa, and Dr. Smith are going to return to the Capitol to have one-on-one meetings with members of our delegation. We're looking forward to that, but I just want to share with anyone who's watching, you can absolutely join our advocacy efforts. And if you are not sure where to start, or if you just need a quick rapid-fire update so you don't have to read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages to learn about each individual bill, reach out to your trustees. Advocacy is a big part of our charge as school board members, and we're here to answer questions and help you remain informed as a community member. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President McMurrow. Item C is our Finance and Academics Committee report, which I'll provide as chair of the Finance and Academics Committee. We met on March 10th, and I thank you, Sarah McMurrow and David Wilbanks, for sitting on that committee. We have met and we had 3 key points that we discussed this last week. We discussed bond capacity that we have as a district. Budget reduction updates were provided by Ms. Darla Moss to let us know where we are, because we have actively been working on our budget all year long. As we knew we did when we adopted that budget, we knew that number was going to change. It's something that we know every year. We've dealt with zero-based budgeting. Nothing new to us. We've known that for quite some time, and Darla has done that for us. However, when we have that budget that we're adopting, so many numbers are still not known, whether it's the tax rate, whether it's our enrollment, attendance. We don't know what we are getting. So at some level, we are almost doing a guesstimate of a budget, knowing that throughout the year, that number is going to change, adjust, and that we are going to be good. Thanks to Ms. Moss and her amazing financial prowess, that number is where we're happy with, and we'll have more information and details on that soon from either Ms. Moss or from Dr. Smith. One of you will share that out. The other thing is we had bond planning options discussion. As we heard from FFC, they are ready to go back and kind of look at what is that next step for Arlington ISD. We know something needs to happen. We don't know what that is. And right now, it's the point of, in our discussion was, community input and feedback is needed. We cannot do anything as trustees until we know what our community wants, what they will support. We also know that bond regulations have changed since the last time we went out for our bond, and that's going to be something important for us to consider. In the meantime, we will be looking at budget numbers. We know that no matter what, with the legislation going on and knowing that money is not going to be coming in more than likely, if history repeats itself, we are going to have to figure out how to get water out of a stone. And that's a hard position to be in, but knowing that our students deserve the best and so do our stakeholders. So that is it for our Finance and Academics Committee report. Item D is our financial report, and we will go back to Dr. Smith and Mrs. Moss.
I don't think I need to say anything else to introduce Darla. I will say, I do echo what our trustees said and what our committee members have said about Darla's facilitation of the Financial Futures Committee. Her leadership is extremely valuable to our school district, so we're grateful for you.
Thank you. And tonight, I'll just kind of continue our updates. We did an update to the board back in December, kind of the same format. Tonight, we'll add a budget amendment where we're doing some significant amendments that we're asking you for in the consent agenda later on. We'll just start some of the slides you're familiar with, so I'll just make a couple of points on each one of them. This is a look at our general operating fund, and we have received now 67% of our revenue, or just over $407 million. When we look at our expenditures, we've spent just 53% of that, or $357 million in general operating. And then again, I'm trying to keep you updated on our assumptions that we used at the beginning of the year and where we are right now. When we look at our enrollment, we're at, as of the end of January, we were at 53,083. That number has since changed. I think when I looked at it for earlier this week, we have dropped to 52,930. So that is really important for us to keep monitoring. We monitor it throughout the year because it is, definitely tied to our funding. Our ADA that we actually budgeted for was $47,299. As of January, our estimate after the third 6 weeks was $47,968. We're looking at those numbers as well, and we really believe that that ADA is going to probably fall below what we actually budgeted. If I look at some of the reasons for that is our attendance. When I look at February 3rd, we had some illness-related attendance issues. So our ADA, or our attendance was at 80%. And then February 19th and 20th, our ADA was 70% and 88% respectively. And then in March, on March the 4th, we had that little storm that morning, and we were at 88% then. So that's all going to drive that ADA down, and that's why we're expecting or anticipating that we may be a little below what we actually budgeted for. And then, of course, I've been sharing out our staff positions as well, and our compensation and benefits, of course, as I think Blake Davidson said too, is the largest portion of our expenditures. So we monitor that very closely. But our total staff amount has not changed since we last reported out in December too. And we looked at this slide again back in December. Our department reductions are at $4.8 million. We have payroll savings of $19.1 million. No change to our real estate holdings at this point. And then our ESSER funding, it has a positive impact on this year of $16 million. We're continuing to monitor the tax collections and student attendance closely, as I said. We're looking at another small decrease in our utilities from budget. We're now at a 4.8% decrease as of January, which equates to about $612,000. So we continue to monitor that as well. That is not included in the amendment because that's kind of volatile. So we'll see where that number ends. And then again, we have looked at department overtime. We've reduced that budget by $1.8 million. and in the general operating fund, and about $400,000 in the food services fund. We've also looked at our recapture and adjusted that. We're asking you to amend that budget as well in the amount of $2.6 million. So this is a look at the proposed amendment, and I'll go in detail over each one of the funds, but the net change to our general operating fund is $24.5 million. Our child nutrition fund, we're proposing a $773,000 change, and then our capital projects fund, $34.8 million. And so if we look at general operating a little closer, this table just details the changes behind the proposed amendment. There is a reduction in property taxes that's offset, if you'll see there, by the state aid. The forecast for interest is being reduced in response to lower interest rates this year. And then our expenditure reductions include some of the items we discussed earlier in those budget reduction strategies. So overall, there's a decrease in revenue of 1.9 and a decrease in expenditures of 26.5. What we're proposing for you tonight is a $4.5 million net change in the general operating, and that will put us just at a very small, maybe $900,000 deficit. So we've done some work there, and to reduce that deficit, we continue to do that. We know we will still see additional payroll savings, but again, we're closely watching that average ADA as well because we know that it will offset. So we're monitoring that very closely. And then if we move on to child nutrition, we've received 52% of that revenue, or just over $21 million, and we've spent 53% of what we budgeted, $21.9 million. And the budget amendment for child nutrition, the forecast for interest, again, here is being reduced a slight amount. And the revenue decrease of $2.5 million is due to lower student participation and a lower meal reimbursement rate. So we had to reduce the revenue on that side. The expenditure reductions include payroll savings, again, attributed to vacant positions and adjustments to supplies because of that lower participation. So we're asking you for a decrease in revenue of $2.5 million, and decrease in expenditures of 2.4 for a net change of $773,000 in our child nutrition fund. If we move on, take a look at capital projects. We have received 44% of the revenue that was budgeted there, and of course that's mainly our interest and our gas and oil royalties that we put in that fund, some of the local part of that capital projects fund, and then our expenditures for the same period are just over 96.6, or 25%. And then just to look at the amendment for the capital projects, the 34.8 is just the result of the adjustment for the fiscal year 24 year end in that fund. And to wrap up, I just wanted to share a little bit about the bond sale that we had on February the 11th. Big thanks to all who participated in that process, our FA, Hilltop Securities, and George. He was the lead on that team. Nicole Conley led the team at Siebert Williams and Shank. And we also had some district employees, Kelly Horn and Donald Tate, accompanied me and the team on pricing day. It was a tough market day. It was interesting to be there and see that, to go to the desk and just to see the demeanor of the people there. We saw about maybe a reduction of 0.04 basis points that day, but we were able to sell the bonds. We got, I think, 49 investment accounts, which is something that we haven't done in the past. We had a lot more accounts. Whenever we take Arlington bonds out there, we get good participation. Our underwriters also, participate well, and they work ahead of that day, talking to investors to make sure that Arlington does well on that day. So our Series 2025 new money portion was $163.5 million. That first maturity is 2/15 of 2026, and the final is 2/15 of 2050. our Series 2025 refunding portion of $170 million. The first maturity is 2/15 of 2026, and the final is 2/15 of 2037. The aggregate true interest cost is 3.66%, and our refunding resulted in a savings of $49.2 million for our taxpayers. And I'm glad to answer any questions you may have.
Trustees, do we have any questions? Going once, going twice. President Chapa.
Thank you, Secretary Richardson. I have a couple questions, and I will go back to the slide for the Child Nutrition Fund. Are the
this one or the one before? This one? Or that one?
Either one of them would work. I had a couple questions about the revenue decrease, and it's marked down as $2.5 million in revenue decrease on the federal side. And you also mentioned the reimbursement rate. Can you go into a little more detail on that and what's driving that?
Yes, and I might have to get Mr. Lewis up here. He probably could do a better job of that, telling you what he actually thought it would be initially and where we are right now.
Thank you. Thank you, President Chapa, members of the board. Sorry, Ms. Moss. Dr. Smith. And so, President Chapa, when we initially went with our budget, we were looking at a reimbursement rate, looking at some of the grants that were received in the 23-24 year, specifically that helped because of the low reimbursement rate that we had in the 23-24 year. We also were looking at other food programs, summer program, supper programs, and what they received as an increase. Their increases actually come before the national school lunch increases. So when we looked at that, we were figuring about a 6% increase that we would see in reimbursement. The actual reimbursement came at an increase of 2.3%.
Okay. And what's driving that?
That's just the federal funding that we received from USDA.
Has most of that come, let's say, in the last 2 months?
No. And so that previous reimbursement was done prior to the new administration or the new presidency and USDA. There are some things in USDA that you may have heard of. One being the kind of the canceling of this local food grant program that has the potential to hit our district. I don't necessarily think that it will. We were in that grant given a little over $400,000. We've already received a little over half of that that we have. I doubt they're going to ask us to pay that back. We have already submitted for reimbursement for the rest of that. The state at this point looks as if they may pay that to us, but we may not get that. So we are looking at potentially $170,000 that they say, then there is no more funds for that. But as of right now, they have not stated that.
Okay. And back to the reimbursement rate issue. So when we submit for reimbursement, I mean, we've got documentation that's in theory, we should be getting what we expect back, right? So what are the reasons why the government wouldn't give us the reimbursement rate that we would have expected?
Well, that's us just looking at what they've done previously and making an assumption of what that rate may be. And we just assumed what they paid.
Okay. All right. And then that's all the questions I have on food nutrition. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Ms. Moss, I do have one last question. On the ADA, you mentioned there were a couple particular days where we've taken a hit on our ADA. Are we going to be able to get a waiver for those days, or do you think we are going to, in fact, eat those days?
I think we should be able to get a waiver on those days.
Okay. Because if we can't, I mean, I think this is highlighting another instance in which Texas is one of the few states left that does ADA instead of enrollment-based funding, and this is an example of it. We don't control the weather. We don't control outbreaks of illnesses. We don't control the wind is really bad, and the storms are coming in right as we're trying to get to school. So another reason why I hope the ledge one day, hopefully this time, switches us to enrollment-based funding. That's all I got.
Absolutely.
Trustee Wilbanks.
Thank you, Secretary Richardson, and thank you, President Chapa, for pointing out that fact that we still have to staff with teachers, even though that we get paid on attendance and we can't control those factors. So we still have fixed costs, but our revenue is variable depending on those factors we can't control. So, and again, thank you, Ms. McMurrow, for all you've done to increase the advocacy of our community on those important issues down in Austin, because we do need to move to a funding formula, and the whole committee, we do need to move to a funding formula that is based on actual enrollment and not factors we can't control. So, and also, thank you, Ms. Moss. Looking at the latest budget figures, we've got some challenges you pointed out, but your team has done tremendous work. If I can scroll back to the actual budget, of reducing our deficit down to $959,000 roughly, and that is only about 14 bips when you look at our overall budget, or for those watching at home, 0.14 or 15% of our overall budget, again, a rounding error. So I think it's close enough for government work, and we can say our budget at this point, subject to change, but at this point is closed. Our budget gap is closed. So thank you for all your hard work on that. And then my ADHD was kicking in when you were talking about the savings that we saw on our interest payments from our, not only our, well, anyway, can you recap?
Our refunding
On
for
the
the bond
refunding,
sale?
yeah.
Yes, the funding portion of it, we were able to save, I think, $49.2 million for the taxpayers.
$49.2 million. as a
Yes, just by
taxpayer.
refunding those bond series.
Yeah. So as a taxpayer, I appreciate your efforts in that area and saving the district future interest payments. So, so yes. And also thanks to our team at Hilltop for really giving us sagacious advice on how to maximize and be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars.
Thank you, Thank you, Darla, for your presentation, and thank you for all the hard work that your team has done. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our final report tonight is an update on our adopted district priority on our resources and the Campus Needs Index. Dr. Smith, I think this one is all you.
Well, Dr. Collins is actually coming up to present, but I wanted to make sure that everybody knew and was reminded of why we're here. This is one of the key progress measures that you all adopted this year, and we, as you know, engaged in a workshop with our trustees about that key progress measure, and we are working to utilize a Campus Needs Index now. So tonight we're giving you a final report on this progress.
Good evening, President Chapa, Dr. Smith, trustees. We're very excited to be here tonight to talk to you about the significant progress that has already been made with this district priority focused on resources. So that's been the theme of the evening tonight, in line with all of the conversations we've already had about finance and budget. And as Dr. Smith mentioned, this presentation is intended to provide you with an update on our goal. So as a reminder, these are the priorities that were adopted back in the fall, and tonight we are focusing in on the idea of maximizing resources. And the key progress measure that we established back in the fall was that we wanted to develop an agreed upon Campus Needs Index using key metrics for strategic staffing and resource allocation by March 1st, 2025. And as you saw in a board bulletin a couple of weeks ago, we hit the goal, and we are very excited to bring this update to you today. So trustees, you've had an opportunity to do a little bit of learning already about the Opportunity to Learn Index. We had a board workshop a couple of months ago about this topic, but I'm going to walk through the learning that we've done together just to lay the foundation for any community members that may be tuning in this evening and wanting to learn more. So we have basically a two-phase approach, and I'm going to talk with you about phase one, and then I'm going to turn over phase two to Dr. Lopez because her team has done a lot of big work on this goal. So during phase one, we worked with Strive to potentially start looking at an Opportunity to Learn Index. And we'll define what that is here in just a few minutes. But over the last 6 months, we've really been trying to build understanding with stakeholders throughout our system. So back in September, we had an initial meeting with Strive to learn what they could do to help us with some data acquisition. In October and November, Dr. Lopez and her team sent data back and forth with Strive to help make sure that they had the very best information that was current about our system. In December, we looked at a draft report together as a senior staff to make sure that we understood the work that they were doing. And then in February, Strive came out and did some presentations with you guys as a team of trustees. They met with our Office of School Leadership team, our OSL team, to help make sure that our executive directors knew and understood this work. We had some principal opportunities for learning. Our Superintendent's Executive Council had some opportunities to learn. And then we had some opportunities for our research and accountability team to run some additional analysis on the data. So lots of work has happened on this goal over the last 6 months. The idea about an Opportunity to Learn Index is how can we think and act differently so that we can affect academic performance in a way that maybe we haven't been thinking about before. So how can we know more so that we can perhaps have more strategic strategies as we're looking forward to providing our resources to campuses. And I'll tell you that exciting conversations are happening all around Arlington ISD right now because of the learning that we've been able to do together. So traditionally, whenever you think about identifying our students or our campuses who have students that are in the most need, we think about the idea of being educationally disadvantaged. And traditionally around the nation, the Free and Reduced Price Meals Index is what is usually used to help identify if a student qualifies as educationally disadvantaged or not. And you guys know that that is based upon families turning in a form and providing us with data. And so some years we have higher success rate at gathering that data than others. The other thing that's interesting about this is that with educational disadvantage, oftentimes we have students that qualify, but their needs are drastically different. So maybe one year a student qualifies as in need because their family is in transition with a job opportunity. And so because mom has chosen to stay home or because they're in the middle of job situations, maybe for a year or two, a family might qualify. But we also have students who are in extreme poverty that qualify for this. And it's interesting for us as a district to be able to look at what are the real needs for these students, what are the real needs for these campuses so that we can figure out better how to meet those individual needs. So this is a picture of our campus economically disadvantaged percentages here in Arlington ISD. So each dot represents a campus in our district from 41% economically disadvantaged all the way up to 98% economically disadvantaged. And you'll see there that the district average is at 80%. So our campuses have different needs, and we know that by simply looking at the economically disadvantaged percentages. But we can learn so much more. So with Opportunity to Learn Index, essentially we can have an additional lens to look at data. So what is Opportunity to Learn? I'm going to read these bullets because I think it's important for our community to understand. So number one, we believe that student success is tied directly to a young person's opportunities to learn. Every student can learn, and we have to make sure that they are provided the right opportunities to be able to learn. And then OTL is defined as whether students have had sufficient access to conditions, instruction, resources, and supports that they need to thrive. And that there are multiple layers to opportunities to learn, including things we can do in school, as well as factors that take place outside of school. And so we need to consider all of those things whenever we're talking about student and campus needs. So in measuring a school's opportunity to learn, Strive looks at four indicators. So the student demographic indicator, and there are 12 indicators in that bundle. Effective school indicators, and there are 9 indicators in that bundle, student engagement indicators, and then neighborhood indicators. And all of those then are compared to student outcomes. So what we're looking at is what are the indicators that make up our student body, and then how are they performing in the district? And we're looking for some, perhaps a correlation or some relationship there. And everything that Strive has provided to us has been in a heat map kind of form. So just to help you take a look before we actually look at a data chart. So there are 34 total indicators there across the top, and then you can see those color bands. And so the demographic indicators is all data that comes from PEIMS. The pink is the effective school indicators, and those were all provided by our school district. The student engagement indicators, again, were provided by the school district, and the neighborhood factors come from census data, that's public data. And so all of these were the factors that were considered. Down at the bottom, you'll notice the heat mapping coloring. And so in just a minute, when I click over to the next slide, you're going to see a sample of some campuses, and you're going to see lots of colors. Essentially, with students who are in the most need, you're going to see shades of pink. So there's kind of a light pink, a medium pink, and then a bright red. And then for green, for our students who aren't as in need, we have the different shades of green. So bright green, kind of a medium green, and a light green. So I'm going to click over, and it's a lot of colors, right? So this is our heat map, and this is a sample map that was provided to us by Strive. So I just want to orient you to this chart. So down the left, you'll see campuses, and they're labeled A through ZZ, I think is the way that they're labeled. So we have sample campuses listed, and then across the top are those indicators from the previous slide. And then down at the bottom, you'll see that key. And so I'm going to just try to tune you in to what we see here. And so if you'll look over in the green section about 2/3 of the way over towards the right, you see 4 bright red right in a row on top of each other. And so what that tells us is that for those 4 campuses, they are struggling the most with that particular indicator. But then right next to it, you'll see 5 green right in a row. And so those campuses are doing better than the others for that indicator. Does that make sense, the idea about the heat mapping? So it's a lot of data to be able to look at. Lots of information that's provided. I think something that's important to note then, what Strive does to be able to talk about which campuses are most in need is they count up the total number of pink or red across the line, and then those campuses are quantified with a number, and it's just the number of pink or red. And so they don't do any analysis or provision for if you were bright red as opposed to light pink, or any specific indicators that they feel like might provide more information than others. It's just a count all the way across. So this really was phase 1 of the work that we've done. And so in phase 1, we were able to lay the groundwork about, okay, what is an opportunity to learn index? How could we think differently about providing resources? It established some baseline comparisons. So thinking about that heat map, the idea of a portrait for each different campus. It allowed us to facilitate some stakeholder engagement, so to partner together with principals, with our OSL executive directors, with our cabinet team about what this could look like. But then that 4th bullet to me is the most exciting because it's encouraged critical inquiry and resource examination. So already the dialogue has changed as we're talking about providing resources to campuses, because this heat map idea allowed us to have different kinds of conversations about what individual students or campuses might need. So the next thing that we did was we tried to think about what next. So this was provided to us by Strive, but what else do we want to know? And so we met together as a leadership team and tried to think about, are there any additional factors that weren't included that we would be interested in perhaps adding to the map? Are there any indicators that we see maybe shine a little bit brighter than others, so they give us a little bit more alignment with performance or needs of campuses? And our research and evaluation team looked specifically at all of this data and ran a lot of statistics. And so I'm going to invite Dr. Lopez up to visit and share with you about phase 2 of this work.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. So for phase 2, as Dr. Collins stated, we had solicited feedback and wonderings kind of about the OTL index data, and there were suggestions for looking into a few more variables, running a few more analyses, and so RNA did just that, investigated variables, looked at even relationships between the plethora of variables that were there, and then landed on regression models where we were able to create a weighted campus needs index model. And it predicts student performance with 73.7% accuracy, which we were pleased with that value. Educational research and stats, that's a good number for us. So we were proud of that. With how this index will be used, resource allocation, possibly staff allocation, et cetera, you need to ensure that the needs index the model successfully meets goals, and those are listed here. So it needs to have face validity, which means basically the list that is produced, the relative list of campuses that is produced based on those campus needs indices needs to appear reasonable to anyone within the district. It would align with the expectations, should make sense, right? So a campus that you kind of know is probably more high needs would be ranked where it should go, and maybe one that might not seem to have as much need would be ranked slightly higher. And so it needs to be highly predictive. We want that statistical rigor where we can leverage those effect sizes and the statistical significance to really predict student outcome. That should be reliable. A balanced scope is necessary, so the model needs to be comprehensive. You want to kind of cover all the bases for the things that we know in educational research usually have an impact on performance, but yet you don't want so much in a model where there's noise and error. You need to streamline, kind of aim for the parsimony there. And so also it needs to be contextually relevant so that things that are important, relevant to AISD, to our staff, stakeholders, and community are considered. And then defensible, that the model could be easily explained and applied without needing a member of the research and accountability staff there to explain all the ins and outs of it. So we feel confident with where we landed with the phase 2, the internal campus needs index. The next slide, I'm going to show y'all the variables that were included, the final variables that made of the 34 that made the list to predict those outcomes, and then a visual of some of the output and how it might be used. So I'll go to that. So if you kind of just on that little aqua colored side there with those bulleted points, so the 5 variables that ended up having the most statistical significance to the predictors are economically disadvantaged, the percentage of students absent more than 10 days at a campus, the percentage of mobility of students, the staff survey procedural effectiveness factor, and then the percentage of students that speak languages other than English. So none of those are really surprising, and I think it's a kind of a good, kind of spread representation of the things that we kind of know and believe and have seen in previous research. And so use those variables. Those were the ones that produced that 73.7% accuracy. And those go into our campus needs index formula. So what you'll see on the right there, that visual, it's a list of obviously de-identified campuses. So that first column is campus name. The second column is a percentile ranking. So that's not the campus needs index itself. It is the rank of the campus needs index in order. And so that just shows that, for example, campus A, the percentile ranking of all 72 campuses, traditional AISD campuses in the model, was a 1.43. So campus A is the highest need according to student achievement, the predicted student achievement. And then the next column shows the same percentile ranking when we include student growth as the outcome variable that we're trying to predict. That fourth column then shows you is the percentile for that campus in the bottom 25th percentile of both achievement and growth. If it's yes, then yes, they're in the bottom 25th percentile. If no, well, then they might have been low on one and high on another. And usually kind of correlate pretty strongly, though, the achievement and the growth there. Last column is residuals, kind of just shows you where that campus falls above or below the regression line. So it's just some interesting information. Is that campus performing slightly higher or lower than what the model would predict? Again, it's 73.7% that we were able to account for. So, there could be some noise there could be error, or just something going on that we don't quite have a data point for to capture to include in the model. Because trust me, if we could get it to 100%, we would. So anyhow, just additional information there. So what you might use this, the relative ranking for, is to then say, okay, well, these 16 campuses in this bottom 25th percentile, these are the ones that are the highest need. What can we do for these campuses? And it may not be the same thing, because if we look back at phase one, with that abundance of data, they may not all have the same red and green across the campus. So it's not telling you what to do, it's just telling you who has a high need and who has a low need, and in what order. So it also can be used, maybe it's not the bottom 25th percentile. Well, go ahead and expand it. If you wanted to look at the bottom 33rd percentile, make it 24 of the 72. Want to be a little bit more rigorous, then bottom 10%. Okay, then that's going to be campus A through campus G. We're able to now kind of apply it how we need to apply it, and then make some decisions. It doesn't have to be exactly the same and, just hard and fast with this set list. So it's a starting point. So I want to move to just some methodological insights. Why, just to kind of just give a little bit more information about moving from phase one to phase two. In addition, all of the goals that we were able to meet with the inferential model, we had looked at some relationships between the 34 variables, and were able to kind of create some clusters, little family groupings of variables where they have something in common. They have a similarity. So I gave an example here of this little visual on the left here. So you can see there's some circles representing variables that were in phase one model. So the first is percentage economically disadvantaged. The next is free and reduced lunch. The third is persistently disadvantaged. Then we had child poverty and family poverty. All of those things measure a similar variable, but just in a slightly different way. So they are 5 different variables, but they have something in common. And so when you're running an inferential analysis, opposed to just kind of looking at some descriptive stats, you don't want to have variables that are this similar to one another within the model. And so we looked at the correlation between these variables within this one variable grouping, and then which of them is contributing the most or explaining the most variation in the outcome variable. And so we know it's not just economically disadvantaged, but in this family, economically disadvantaged did end up contributing the most explanation for student achievement, actually 46.6% in our data set. So we ended up moving with that one variable in that family of variables. And you kind of see that we clustered and created families, and then found which one can explain the most in that theme. You don't want to just kind of throw them all in there, because if you do that, you get multicollinearity and suppressor effects on the variables, on the outcome, and you get some nonsensical results where you might even see some sign changes where something was positive and then all of a sudden it becomes negative. And it just doesn't make sense. So you don't want to just throw everything in there, because that's not statistically sound. So wanted to just kind of mention that. And then we moved from that 46.6 to the next family grouping, accounted for a little bit more explanation, where we ended up landing on that 73.7. And I know you might be thinking, you should do it with a couple more and then you can get to that 100. And unfortunately, if we could, we would, but it kind of caps out there. Again, there's things that maybe are out there that can provide the explanation, but they're not quantified, and so you can't put them into the model. So, phase two, we were able to kind of get that efficient relative listing, but then we got to go back to phase one and look at, okay, now that I have maybe the list of the 10 highest needs, what might I do? What strategy could I implement? Because they might have different needs. They have need. But what might I do in order to kind of help alleviate some of that and help kind come up with the most effective strategy. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Collins, and she can talk a little bit more about phase 1 and 2 and next steps.
All right, so for our next steps, the first thing I want to say is this data is already being used in our system. And so to me, that's super exciting. I wanted to give you just a few examples of the different kinds of meetings that we've been in where people have brought up this idea of a campus index for us to be able to do something different for them. So we were in some meetings a couple of weeks ago specific to Title I and state ComEd funding and, how we're going to allocate that for the upcoming school year. And participants in the meeting asked the question, what is it that we can learn from our campuses to see if we need to perhaps do something differently than the way that we've always done it? How can we do business a little bit differently? We've had conversations with HR about strategic hiring and how can we make sure that our students who have the most need get the teachers who are the most qualified on their campus, right? And so are there some strategies that potentially we could use for something like that? As we've been having budget reduction strategies, are there strategies that we want to take off of the table because they would disproportionately, hurt a campus that we feel like maybe still has some high levels of need, right? So just in the natural business and the way that we're doing work here in Arlington, these conversations are happening. And for me, that's super exciting. And so that's what we hope will continue to happen. And as Dr. Lopez mentioned, we're not thinking it's the heat map or the way that we ran statistics, that it really is a blend of both of those things together because it gives us different information about how we might be able to best serve our campuses. So I am happy to let you know that our resources, KPM, has been complete, but the verb there is to develop, right? So we've developed, and there's still going to be a lot of iterating as we figure out the now what. How will we continue to use it, and what is it that we can continue to inform moving forward in our system? And I'm excited about that. So any discussion that you guys would like to have?
Dr. Collins, thank you so much for your presentation. Dr. Lopez, thank you for your work and everything that you have provided the details for us. We have quite a few questions for you both tonight. We're going to go ahead and go to Trustee Mike first.
There we go. Thank you, Dr. Collins, Dr. Lopez. Excellent presentation. I like some of the wording that was used where this provides a conversation. And so it enables you to start focusing on where you allocate your resources. When you look at this index needs map, I think one of the things that it tells me is that Arlington is vastly different from other districts. So I think it's unfair for people to compare this school district to this school district. When you look at this heat map, you recognize that students are more than just a score on a piece of paper. They're more than just numbers. There are variable aspects outside of just education itself that affect how they learn and what they learn. So to see something like this, it runs contrary to the old way of thinking of X amount of students, you get X amount of resources. I'm very happy to see that we're looking at the needs. And I think it's something that has been echoed out throughout the community to ensure that these resources get placed in areas to allow the students to learn better. Dr. Lopez, I know you said something about some of us were thinking that you could get to 100 with a few more points. I assure you, if I ran it, we'd probably be at 0.01%. So 73% is excellent. I love the data. I love seeing it. I do have one question, and I think it's something that I think about because we are implementing this. It is something new. It is something different from what normally occurs. But when you look at expectation of timeline, and I know it's not going to be instantaneous, it's going to take some time to get there. Do we have at least a rough estimate of timeline to see that expectation of student of growth based on us changing this format?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think you'll begin to see some decisions that are being made based on what we know now about our campuses that we didn't know before. And I think we'll have different kinds of conversations. But I think it's going to depend on the strategies that are used for us to be able to then try to choose a metric to be able to say, and it made a difference, and this is why we know how that happened. Dr. Lopez and I have had a couple of conversations face-to-face and via email about, the idea of program evaluations. So if we're going to try some different strategies, what type type of program evaluations might we add as a part of those strategies so that we can try to figure out this one had a stronger return on investment than that one. So I do think that we will get there. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay. And just one more thing that I wanted to point out, right? Since this is something different, I think change, right? Change is hard for a lot of people, but when we're changing this dynamic of just doing everything the same, people need to understand that it's not going to be the same. It is going to be strictly focused on the resources that are needed by these students and by the teacher and the faculty. So that's something that I want everyone out there in TV land to understand, that we are focused on ensuring that these resources are provided to students who need it the most. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Richardson, if I could add one thing to Trustee Mike's question, I want to reiterate too, our goal this year was outlined in the KPM as developing the tool and beginning these conversations. So I want to also assure you, I'm worried about major change, and I want to assure you that we're not going to go in and just turn over the whole apple cart in all of this right now. We have to begin by having conversations, looking at staffing and resources through this lens now and asking ourselves the right questions. Are looking at a specific campus, is this campus getting what they need to thrive? And to be able to really ask ourselves that and to continue to iterate with this tool, I think you will see it implemented and used more over the next year. This spring is really about getting used to the tool and helping influence those discussions this spring, but this isn't a whole apple cart turnover at this point.
Trustee Wilbanks.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. So, change management, this is a big change, and change management is critical, but this is phenomenal work. This is a huge paradigm shift for us in terms of really focusing and aligning resources to the needs. I commend you guys for this. I promised my colleagues I'll be brief in my questions while I go full data nerd with Dr. Lopez on this stuff, because as she knows, I've been doing this kind of work over the last couple of summers. I've got a lot going on my plate right now, so I haven't really gotten to it in a while. But I'm curious some of the things you found in terms of the correlation. Getting to 73.7 of being able to predict is phenomenal. I had some questions. One, the first one, which one or two of you guys could answer, is first, thank you, Dr. Collins, for explaining why free and reduced lunch for our ECHO DIS measure is flawed. But I noticed, in the end, you say percent economically disadvantaged is the biggest correlation that we have that predicts student outcomes. And when you say economically disadvantaged, is it the free and reduced lunch indicator?
That's a subset of the economically disadvantaged percentage.
All those other factors. So if you could pull up, what other measures did you find were good at predicting a true percentage of or indicator of if a student's economically disadvantaged or not?
So we didn't look at that wasn't our outcome of kind of trying to is this thing discerning appropriately? The variable is what it is. So economically disadvantaged, you can be a 1, 2, or a 9, and David Lewis could explain how you get into those different categories, because we've worked with him and his staff in kind of making sure that we're accurately capturing that in our data. And so it can be free lunch, reduced lunch, or some other economically disadvantaged indicator. And there's 16, I think, different categorizations within that.
So you're
and
not
different
doing a blend
routes.
of all of those. You're not weighting all of those.
No. So
You
just we
kind
did.
of looked for correlations and cross correlations and picked the ones that.
We just took economically disadvantaged percentage for the campus, regardless of whether you were a 1, a 2, or a 99. Whatever the reason is, we didn't look into examination of reasons within these things. We looked at just percentage of economically disadvantaged by campus. And then the relationship between that economically disadvantaged percentage, whichever reason you're in, or whichever level of EcoDis that you are, that was not, it's just a yes or a no. Are you? What's the percentage of kids that are in that? And when we looked at the relationship between that, between the other variables that were in our phase 1 model, which were just free and reduced lunch percentage, which is the subset of that EcoDis, just the persistently disadvantaged, which is that you've been economically disadvantaged for 3 or more years. Child poverty, which was a neighborhood factor, and then family poverty, which was, so we didn't actually have those. We were able to obtain those variables by working with Strive in that phase 1. So we looked at the relationship between those variables to determine that they were in fact related. And then of those 5, which one was the most predictive of student achievement and then student growth. And so while they all could have, the most predictive was that overarching economically disadvantaged percentage,
Okay.
which maybe doesn't discern level of need,
Right.
but it captures the economic disadvantage for a variety of reasons, which might be why it predicts the most.
Yeah. So it's not perfect,
No,
but it's highly correlated.
yeah,
And,
yes, sir.
So looking at the neighborhood factors, and one of the things that when Strive presented to us in our workshop, that Dr. Austin and a few of us who kind of know campus by campus, the challenges of using census block data from the U.S. Census is sometimes the people who live around our schools, that population does not represent the student body who goes to that school.
Yes, sir.
So that creates a big challenge. I was just curious, one of the things I found that was highly correlated and easy to predict, well, one, the question was, of those census data, not all of those are at the census block or census tract, the smallest indicator that's within a neighborhood of a school. Some are really large census blocks, which in a very diverse community like Arlington, you could go from $1 million houses to Section 8 housing like that. And so it's a really, those that are at that block level are a really poor indicator or of limited use for a diverse community like ours. One thing I did find that was highly correlated that I'd be interested in, Strive has looked at it, is the HUD Poverty Index, which is not a U.S. Census indicator, and it is available down to the tract level, so you can get very pinpoint into a neighborhood around a school. But again, we still have the problem that with, a lot of our schools in East Arlington, that's a pretty good indicator of performance, and it is slightly more, I found it to be a little more highly correlated to, in certain areas of town, highly more correlated to student outcomes.
Achievement, okay.
Based on our last year's STAR scores. So that's something I would look at, if that may help boost it a little bit, is to blend that with EcoDis. But it's just, the neighborhood indicators are just very challenging, I would think, for a diverse community like ours. And so looking at some of those other non-U.S. Census-based poverty indicators might help you guys out. That's just my, just a suggestion, if you need to look for tweaking the model. The other questions, so when you say you correlated with student outcomes, what was the value you're using for correlate? Was it STAR scores, or was it a screener data, into your screener data, student growth on screener data? What were those indicators that you used for correlation?
Yes, sir. So it was the percentage of meeting grade level
Okay,
on the STAR, or the STAR end of course exam, was the student achievement, and then so that percentage at the campus level. The other was student growth, which is also based on STAR and STAR EOC. It's, that's a vertically aligned assessment, and the consistently implemented, administered with, sound environment.
Yeah. So in the last question, and you guys may or may not know this, is I know the commissioner was really pushing us to move away from free and reduced lunch to measure economically disadvantaged and use census tract data. And is that still a thing, or are we moving away from that as a state?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any. Dr. Smith?
No? Okay, all right. That's my last question.
Okay.
This is great stuff. This is great work. This is stuff I've kind of, well, she knows.
Yes.
No, I think the data like this can really inform us as a district and us as a board on how best to funnel our resources to where it's needed most to really leverage a big impact for the better. So thank you guys for this work. It's awesome.
President Chapa?
Thank you, Secretary Richardson. I don't have much to add to what my colleagues have said. I do just want to point out that I appreciate so much the work that's gone into this. I think this has been a long time coming, and it lays the groundwork really for the work that we're going to do going forward on things like strategic staffing. And we have been trying to do this for a long time. I think we have been allocating resources to where we perceive the needs to be. The question is can we do it more accurately? Can we do it more granularly? And this really enables us to do that. And so I look forward to the work that's going to come out of this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Collins. Thank you, Dr. Lopez. That concludes our reports from y'all tonight, so you are able to go sit back down. We're now going to turn to the action item portion of tonight's meeting. We have one item on the agenda, action item A, to consider the board handbook. To introduce that topic, Dr. Smith, I think you and Vice President McMurrow.
I don't know if Vice President McMurrow knew that she was on that one, but she is now. So I just wanted to remind our board, we went through, I believe it was 3 workshops between June and October on the board handbook, and spent time making sure that you all had voice and opportunity to talk about what you want in the handbook, and the handbook guides how you as trustees operate as a board. So I'll turn it over to Trustee McMurrow from there.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. You captured the essence of why we're reviewing this and adopting any changes that trustees want to recommend. And I did want to also add that we reviewed it not only to update it and look at it together as a unit for potential changes, but we also make it a practice to review it. I liked how we did it this time together, bit by bit, even though it did end up taking over the course of 3 workshops, because when we look at it together instead of individually when reviewing like standard board materials, we're more likely to own it and be involved in discussion together around what needs to be changed within it and what needs to remain the same. So I just appreciate all 8 of you guys, or all 7 of you, because there was really good dialogue that came from those workshops. And a lot of our board handbook remained the same, but we needed to look at the content together, our code of civility, what the role of a trustee should be. And a lot of that is still the same because it's the core of why we do what we do. So I appreciate y'all, and I'm looking forward to any recommendations or revisions you guys want to bring forth.
Is there any additional discussion from our trustees? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the board handbook as presented?
So moved.
Motion from Trustee Wilbanks. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Trustee Fowler. We will now move to vote. Trustees, please vote. In favor, all. Opposed, none. Abstain, none. The motion does pass. That concludes tonight's action items. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they wish to pull from tonight's consent agenda? Okay, moving on. We will move on to vote as the remainder of the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda for tonight? Seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Motion from Vice President McMurrow. Is there a second? Second from Trustee Mike. We'll move to the vote now. Trustees, please vote. All in favor, unanimous, opposed none, abstained none. The motion does pass. Up next is our open forum for non-agenda items. Ms. Crosno, do we have any requesters registered to speak with us tonight?
Secretary Richardson, we do not.
Wonderful. As we conclude tonight's meeting, Dr. Smith, you don't get the final word, but you get almost the final word. Do you have anything to report to us?
I do. We have some things to cover tonight. I will make it brief since it's 9:32. I appreciate you all in your work. Our district priorities, I wanted to just thank you for the effort that you put into using these and creating these this year. And I hope that you've seen through our work, through the financial futures, through all of the discussions that we've had in workshops so far this year, and finally culminating in this report on the resources key progress measure, how we're using these and how they help filter our work as an organization. The more focused we can become with your leadership, the better we can do in producing the results that you want to see as a system. So thank you for the work that you did to help create these focus priority areas for us. I know spring break can't come soon enough for many of our students and staff because they've been busy. We're all ready for spring break, I know that. But I'd like to share a few recent highlights of what some of them have been up to in my superintendent's report this month. First, I know we talked about Black History Month celebrations at our last meeting, but they kept on going until the very end of February. Peach and Butler Elementary both held big events at the end of the month with students singing, stepping, dancing, and celebrating history. Another topic we've talked about before is the Global Seal of Biliteracy. Last time I told you about students in our Fine Arts Dual Language program who earned the honor. But more recently, we had 27 other students from multiple high schools earn their Seal of Biliteracy through their success in AP Spanish. Congratulations to those students. Speaking of Spanish, the district's first Spanish spelling bee was held right here in the boardroom. 38 second through sixth graders from around the district qualified for the final, and Samantha Escobar, a sixth grader from Johns Elementary, spelled her way to the bee championship. Congratulations, Samantha. Education in Arlington ISD often extends beyond the classroom. In the CTC recently, it spilled into the parking lot. That's where they hosted a regional high school barbecue competition where 17 teams from across the state, including our CTC's Smokin' Ferrets, cooked and smoked briskets, ribs, chicken, beans, and desserts. Our Smokin' Ferrets finished 4th overall, 2nd for desserts, and qualified for the state competition. The CTC is becoming well known for its culinary program, but that's just one of the many CTE programs that are inspiring and equipping students. Maria Isabel Guerrero is a great example. Last year, as a senior at Sam Houston High School, she took the education and training program at the CTC where she discovered a passion for education. Now she is a TA at Wimbish World Language Academy and plans to become a teacher. We are so proud of the teachers who inspire our students to pour into our educational system. We're also proud of the amazing students like Maya Shaw, the National Merit semifinalist and senior at Martin STEM Academy, earned recognition at a Regeneron, sorry, I got distracted there for a second, at a Regeneron Science Talent Search Scholar after submitting a 25-page research manuscript on gun violence prevention to the prestigious Society for Science competition. The honor not only earned Maya a scholarship, but it also earned Martin a $2,000 award. Before I wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank the Arlington ISD Education Foundation. They recently awarded nearly $180,000 in grants to 33 Arlington ISD educators to empower them with the resources they need to bring innovative ideas to life in their classrooms. We have amazing teachers, and grants like these amplify the positive impact they have on kids. That concludes my report for this month. Oh, I apologize. I added one more slide at the end that I forgot to comment on. We had the workshop tonight on professional learning. I wanted to thank the board for your continued support of my own professional learning. I was able to attend the National Superintendent's Conference. It's called the National Conference on Education recently. And in the next few weeks, I will be attending the Council of Great City Schools Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. So I appreciate your continued focus on our whole system and myself as I continue to learn and grow as a leader as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Do we have any trustees who have reports tonight? Trustee Wilbanks?
Thank you, Secretary Richardson. And I want to go back to the Smoking Ferrets. Congratulations on them. But when Larry, Mike, and I went out to the competition, we ran across the Seguin team. And most people don't realize, before the Smoking Ferrets, it was the Seguin High School barbecue team that was the first one that kind of started the ball rolling. And so they were there competing as well. So shout out to the teacher at Seguin who started that and has kept it going. And again, congratulations to the Smoking Ferrets. Another amazing teacher I want to point out is the construction trade teacher at Arlington High School. Do what? Yeah, Coach Chris, or Chris as he's called. He is doing some amazing work in promoting the construction trades here in Arlington, at Arlington High School and across the district. He had a competition going last Saturday between Bowie High School and his group, and we had a lot of vendors and judges from the city and contractors who oftentimes make offers on the spots to our seniors. And so a shout out to say his last name again? Mr. Grimaldo, yes, Chris G. And all, what?
And Garrity is with Bowie.
And Garrity with Bowie for providing such great pathways for our students and learning opportunities in a much needed profession. So
We were able to see the teacher, Mr. Garrity and Mr. Grimaldo in action. But one of the great things is we partnered with the Beck Construction Group. Not we, he has, Chris Grimaldo has. And he worked with the construction group there, and Beck donated all the lumber for the entire competition for both schools. They also had donations from Callis Custom Homes, Medford Remodeling, City of Arlington came out and helped judge it. They also had donations from Shipley's, TikToko. They were there with food, coffee, and everything supporting our students.
yes, it was awesome.
Trustee Mike?
Yes. I have some pictures coming up. Oh, there we go, pictures. So this first one, this is Crow Leadership Academy. Principal Morales and her staff. I took a tour of Crow Leadership Academy, and for those who don't know, it's an IB Elementary, the International Baccalaureate program. But for the elementary kids, it's the Primary Years program. And when I tell you they are proud of the work that they are accomplishing there, it's understated. They are so proud of what they're doing. The children not only learn about, the things that they're supposed to learn, but they take ownership of it. So they're taught something, but then they ask the why. Why is this applicable? They learn that pieces go together, and if one piece falls off, then everything falls apart. And as you can see, some examples there of, the what ifs, the why doing this. I mean, it's just amazing what they do. And then they have this. I always heard about their garden. And for me, I assumed the garden was this small little plot of land. No, they've got a garden, and they are adding to it, and they are proud of the work that they're doing. You see the little, is that a gazebo? I think that's a pergola. That's it, pergola. during the nice days, the children go out there with the teachers and they learn out there, but they plant and they do such wonderful, amazing work there. So, great. The next thing I'm showing you is at Adams Elementary, part of the Rotary that I am a part of and able to attend. Every year they host a Mad Science STEM program, and you can see hundreds of students attend with their parents. And they go through different stations of whether it's dealing with electricity or one of the favorite ones in the gym where they build airplanes and learn about flight. But it's about half a day, and the kids just enjoy it. They get snacks. I think I took a picture of the veggie chips because I asked who wants veggie chips, but they went like hotcakes. So the children love it. But it's a great program done in conjunction with the Rotary for the students of Arlington ISD. This one here, this is a combo with myself and Brooklyn Richardson. We attended Ellis Elementary. The principal, Keith Boyd, and his staff, they are doing amazing, wonderful things there. This is one of the schools where I was a little shocked when we walked in, because it was like you had the cheerleaders and the students, and it was this welcoming. It was welcoming.
We got to be honorary students for a day. They gave us buttons to wear. It was special.
They gave us buttons and they welcomed us, and then they showed us all the great things that they were proud of in their program. You can see up there some of their houses. They separate different students into houses, and they compete. So it's almost like a Harry Potter type of deal, right? Where they're proud of what they're doing. What we don't show here is one of the classrooms.
Oh my goodness, that was amazing.
Her name's Zimmerman? Mm-hmm. Miss Zimmerman.
Who had just won an Arlington Education Foundation grant, too.
Yes, and I will tell you, as an adult, walking in this kindergarten classroom, the stimulation, it was stimulation overload, right? But if you put your eyes through the lens of a kindergartner, that's magic.
It was the coolest.
Every place in there, every wall, everything, there was something to learn from. And you could ask the kids, what did they like the most? And they would point and say what they liked. She actually gave them, before any start of the school day, I think they get about 15 minutes to go explore.
In the classroom.
And you can see when we walked in, they were learning. It was just an amazing experience. So kudos to Principal Boyd. Keith Boyd and Ms. Zimmerman for the excellent work that they are doing out there at Ellis Elementary.
Trustee Haynes, you have a report today?
Yes, I think. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let me put my glasses on so I can read my phone, guys, so I get this right. So what you're looking at, we had 4 of our Arlington FFA students travel to Galveston for the TASB, the Texas Association of School Boards Governance Conference. So Daylin, Ivana, Braylon, and Amanda spoke to school board members from across the state about building life skills through agriculture, student perspectives on FFA and career development. They got to share their personal experiences through ag education and FFA and how it is going to help them in their future, and encourage other school board members to support their ag programs. So I just wanted to show this and mention that we are so proud of them for representing our district so well across the state. Yay! All right, so this past week, Arlington FFA partnered with River Legacy to hold their first ever wildlife contest. And so a wildlife contest very quickly is where students come together that compete on the wildlife team, usually 5 students, and they go through various stations identifying native plants, talking about land management, game laws, safety techniques, a whole variety of things. And the reason that it was so kind of unique and special that Arlington FFA had the opportunity to host a contest is because you rarely ever see an urban hosted contest. These are usually in rural districts, and schools within the Metroplex have to travel quite far to attend a contest, and often don't get the credit they deserve for having quality wildlife teams because we live in an urban setting. So it was really, really wonderful to have schools from across the state, everyone from Abilene, Brownsboro, Burleson, all of them travel into our urban setting and learned about land management and wildlife management, and see that even in a city, you still can excel in learning about ag and land management and all the things. So, yeah. Okay, so I feel like I should have already reported on this, but we haven't had a board meeting since this. So back at the end of February, the Arlington Council of PTAs traveled down to Austin for Texas PTA Rally Day. And so what you're looking at are representatives from Miller Elementary, Corey Elementary, Gunn Junior High, Ditto Elementary, Martin High School, Dunn Elementary, Mary Moore Elementary, Young Junior High, and Bowles Junior High. So roughly 30 people, almost a majority students, which is pretty remarkable, traveled down to the Capitol to speak with our legislators. They had the opportunity to meet with 5 of the representatives that touch various parts of Arlington and share their concerns about, the current state of affairs for our district and how that is impacting the students on the campus, and how the parents feel about the situation. Our legislators were very welcoming and listened and were in awe of the students and how well they were able to speak to our legislative priorities and share how they feel being a current student in this day and age in our district. So I just wanted to thank the Council of PTAs for partnering with our governance team and for representing us so well at the Capitol.
Thank you, trustees, for your report. We have had, it feels like we should have had reports in between now and then because it's been a while. So bear with me, I'm going to go through quite a few real briefly. The very first one that I want to tell you about was getting to go to AT&T Stadium again with the art crew, but wanted to tell you something a little bit different. Even though we went to the art crew, you would think they would get to go run on the football field because that's their highlight. You can't see it here, but the football field was getting ready for motocross. So we actually got to see an entire field covered in red dirt, but a very special thank you for our docents, Sherry, Sandra, Chuck, Mr. Pete, and Mrs. Joy. They had a great time, but they made the best use of the practice facility outside, complete with a 5th grade race on the football field, which was interesting. Thank you again to Mr. Nguyen and everything that he does. I got to visit the CTC pop-up shop at Inclusion Coffee. Inclusion is right across the street from the Arlington Courthouse, and they allowed our students to come in and sell their products. You can see I had waffles that were s'mores that were delicious, tres leches cake, and my very favorite thing are these candles. The students came up with the smells. They made them. They are chemical-free, came up with their labels, and I need to tell you that my daughter fought me for it, and it's now in her bedroom. So they were amazing, and thank you to Inclusion for letting them to set up there, and to our entrepreneurship teacher for taking them there. Later, we got to go, several of us, we got to go to Ditto Elementary and read because of the librarian Amy Haynes invited. Trustee Wilbanks, Haynes, President Chapa, Sarah McMurrow, myself, and I were able to go. But not only did we get to read, it was also career day. Trustee Haynes, you can see your very favorite of the day is the angler. If you see our little fisherman, he was amazing. We also had a rocket ship man. But the great thing is the partnership with the city where they bring out all their big trucks. So they had fire trucks, they had diggers, Animal Services came out. It was amazing. So thank you, Ditto, for having us out, and Mrs. Stagmeyer. Sunday night, we were invited to go to an interfaith dinner by our Representative Salman Bojani. We were able to go and be with 9 other faiths, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Jain, and I'm even forgetting some. You'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner, the young man in the blue suit next to Representative Bojani. That is Elijah. He is one of our 8th grade students, and he was there. His mom is on the Jewish Council in Dallas, and they were able to go celebrate with us as well. One of the things I love most is that his son and daughter, Bojani's son and daughter, emceed the entire night. They were the ones who introduced everybody. So when we say that they're a family that serves together, they really, truly are. We had our retired teachers luncheon this week. If you want to be in a room where people are going to grill you, you should go there. I don't think Dr. Smith was prepared for the questions that he got. At one point, former Superintendent Mac Byrne may have yelled out at him. I think if you want to take somebody on a road show, it's our retired teachers and namesakes. We had representatives from Martin High School, Gunn Junior High, Lois Ditto, the Jones family, the Bergens, and so many more. Thank you to President Cynthia Waller for having us there, Dan Diaper, thank you for being a part of that, and former trustee Polly Walton as well. We got to go to Sam Houston High School and be a part of the very famous soul food kickoff for the end of Black History Month. It was wonderful. The students came and served. They were part of the student council. If you see, President Chapa was put to work. He allowed people to have more than one piece of pie, so I think that's why he was everybody's favorite. But Billy Wilson was there. They provide all the food. It's an amazing gift that they give these teachers that they come in and do this with. We had our first annual Spanish spelling bee. Guys, out of every contestant we had, middle school and elementary, everyone was a native Spanish speaker except for two. Two of them who competed and got to the finals were actually not even Spanish speakers. It is amazing. It is incredible the work that they did to put this together. You see some of our winners, but we are so grateful to be able to have a district that includes all different languages and celebrates them. Last but not least, we were able to go to the Travel Sports Legacy Foundation luncheon at the CTC. What this is it allows our students to go into the tourism market, which right here, we're at AT&T Stadium, we're at Rangers Ballpark. We have all these incredible opportunities. It allows our students to go in and get training. If you want to work in the hospitality industry, maybe you want to go into sports management. Well, we kind of have some sports teams here that they get to internship with. As you see, Trustee Mike had a very romantic dinner with the gentleman from Chick-fil-A. The tables were set up in twos where they had students from TCC service, prepare the meals, and then work on their hospitality skills. Mary German is the founder of that, and former trustee Keisha Mays is their current past president, and she was able to explain the partnership that TCC, AISD, and also our hospitality industry here in Arlington provides for all of us. So it was neat to see what our students are able to do. We have Sarah McMurrow for our last report of the night and our best report. No?
I don't think so. That was pretty awesome. There have been so many great things happening in the past couple of weeks. But I had the honor and pleasure of going down to the Capitol 2 days ago to testify on behalf of Arlington ISD in opposition to House Bill 3. I touched on this in our governance committee report, but I thought it'd be more appropriate to share a couple of the nuances from what I observed that day. So as I mentioned earlier, when I went down to the Capitol, there were hundreds of Texans from all around the state, all ages, including students, like what Ms. Haynes mentioned. There were a lot of students that represented at Rally Day. We saw a lot of Texas public and private school and charter school students there at the Capitol for testimony as well. I learned a lot just observing the 15 committee members. You can kind of watch their dialogue, you can watch their reaction to some of the speakers, you can watch their reactions to each other. And my one big takeaway was that the committee is not stacked as one might assume. There are some open minds on that committee, and so I just want to invite our community again not to wait and see what happens with that bill. Please focus on the 15 House of Representative committee members that are on the Committee of Education and contact them with your stance on House Bill 3. I really want to thank my colleagues for allowing me to go testify on our behalf. A lot of people keep asking me, oh, how long did that take? But to be honest with everyone, that one visit, the number of hours it took, that doesn't pale in comparison to the number of hours that we as a board collectively spend on advocacy. This was just one measure that we take as a team. And there are, if it's trustee talks, if it's activating a community group to align with us, there are so many things that our whole board is doing this session. So I just want to thank each of you guys, and it was a real honor to represent you, and it was a real honor to represent Arlington ISD in our testimony. Thank you.
Thank you for going down there. What many people may not know is that Vice President McMurrow actually left trustee talks that night and drove down to Austin, got in line at 6:30 in the morning to register to speak, and then after waiting all day, all night. She finally spoke at 3:15 in the morning. She never left. At 3:15 in the morning, and then turned around and drove back home. So Vice President McMurrow, thank you for your dedication, and thank you for what you do to represent us and our students, and for being a voice who's not scared to speak up. Thank you. If we do not have any other matters that need to be reported, then we are done. Anybody else for tonight? Okay. All items on tonight's agenda have been addressed, and we have no matters to go back and discuss in closed session. Being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned at 9:56 p.m.